Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So the Commanders fall for the first time at Northwest Stadium, 28-27 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're now 4-1 at home, 7-3 overall on the season. A really disappointing loss yesterday, but just another example of how far this team has come and ultimately how far they can go. Even with all the mistakes and the missed opportunities, this was a 1-point game, and the Commanders still had the ball with a chance to win and had an opportunity to get a stop at the end and get the ball back and have a chance to still win the game. And so even with all the mistakes, this team was there in the fight with an opportunity. And so there are silver linings to this dark cloud that formed yesterday. But at the end of the day, a loss is still a loss. And especially when it's one that you feel like you should have and could have and should have won, it doesn't take away the sting. That said, I talked about, what that loss meant, what it represents for me in particular. I talked about that on the day after show that I uploaded earlier, did for Bleacher Report. It's up on the channel. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, go ahead and do so. I won't bore you with those details. I'll let you go watch that for yourself. But what I will say is I want to hand out a couple of game balls from yesterday really quickly, because what often gets caught in losses is the good performances. We often harp on the bad things that transpired and what led to the loss instead of, also mentioning some of the good things that did happen yesterday. I want to give a big shout out to Zane Gonzalez. We didn't really know what we were going to get out of the kicking game yesterday. I want Austin Seibert back as fast as possible, but it's good to know that Zane Gonzalez can step in and be effective in this short stint if need be. He made both of his field goals yesterday. I think one of them was a deeper attempt as well. So I think one of them might have been 47, 48 yards, and he nailed that as well. So made all of his extra points. Hopefully that continues on Thursday, because my guess is Austin Seibert won't be back until the Cowboys game. I think everybody's back by the Cowboys game. That goes for Cornelius Lucas, Marshawn Lattimore, and Austin Seibert. Everybody else, I expect you on the field on Thursday night. All hands on deck. But good to see Zane Gonzalez step up, and it's just another example of Chef P getting in the kitchen, pressing the right buttons, and grabbing us another ingredient to help us go ultimately where this team is going to be at the end of the season, which is NFC East champions. I want to give a shout out to Dante Fowler Jr. 2 sacks again yesterday, 2 games in a row with 2 sacks. He now leads the team in sacks this season. And I mean, what a revelation he's been. I've talked about him all season long. I talked about him before he even stepped foot on the field for us, how excited I was to have a guy that was going to be a situational pass rusher for us. He's been so much more. We've had injuries up front. He stepped in admirably. He's been one of our better run defenders in terms of blowing up plays as well in the backfield. But he's just been a nuisance in the best pass rusher that we currently have on this roster, now up to 7.5 sacks for Dante Fowler Jr. on the season. He's been tremendous, and he continues to be somewhat of a one-man wrecking crew along with Frankie Louvu. So I guess that would make them a 2-man wrecking crew. And I still have confidence in Dorrance Armstrong's ability to get to the quarterback. He seems to be very close quite often, but doesn't actually get the guy on the ground. And that could ultimately turn here as we continue on in the latter stages of this season. But big shout out to Dante Fowler Jr. for continuing to be a menace up front as a pass rusher. Frankie Louvu notched another sack. Wanted to mention that quickly. But Jeremy Chin, 2 weeks in a row, he's clearly standing out as a defender on this team. Interception yesterday. Fumble recovery yesterday. Big shout out to Quan Martin for forcing that fumble. Chin, that's his second fumble recovery of the season. he was everywhere. 12 tackles again, at 12 last week, and led the team. So Chin continues to be a standout, continues to make plays, and you can see the confidence increasing and growing as the weeks pass. We were talking about him as being somewhat of a disappointment. I said a mild one. I wasn't like overly disappointed, but I was expecting more. Now I'm getting what I expected when I was touting this guy along with Frankie Louvu as those Carolina Panthers that you're going to be excited to have on this squad. Now he's starting to show up and do the things that I thought he was capable of doing when we signed him as a free agent this offseason. And one of those guys that looks like a player that we'll want back next offseason if this trend continues in the direction that it is currently going. Terry McLaurin, I don't ever want to take what he brings to the table for granted. 4 or 5 catches yesterday. Which one was it? I think he had 4 catches for 113 yards yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. He was a lightning rod yesterday. I talked about all of the big plays that I thought we could get against the Steelers, and there were so many that were left on the field. The Luke McCaffrey play, the Zach Ertz play, the Noah Brown play, those all come to mind as big opportunities that were left on the field. But Terry didn't leave anything on the field. He had a drop, but it wasn't going to result in a first down. And his drop came because he was getting hit as he was trying to catch the football, not to make any excuses for him. But when the opportunities came his way, he made plays, torched JPJ over there, and baptized that young fella and gave them work. And I knew he was going to get some one-on-one opportunities because the Steelers are cocky enough to think that he can cover Terry one-on-one. And we saw the outcome of that. Terry torched him and gave us a chance to win the football game. So big shout out to Terry as he continues, I think, his march to a career year in Washington this season. He's been outstanding, and I look to see what this ultimately looks like, big picture, when it's all said and done. I think we're going to hit double-digit touchdowns this season. I think we're going to hit over 1,300 yards this season. I think Terry's in line for his best season of his NFL career, and I'm all for it, and I love it. I'm loving every second of it. And then I know he didn't catch that pass on the last possession, but Noah Brown has been spectacular. I was talking to Derek B, my guy Derek B, the other day, and he said, I think we maxed out on Noah Brown and Zach Ertz. I agree on Ertz. I think we've gotten the best of Zach Ertz already, and he's so reliable. I'm not complaining about what Zach Ertz is. I knew what he was when we signed up. He can't run, he can't move. He can still get open. He knows how to sit down, and he knows how to separate at the stem of a route. But after that, don't look for anything, much more than that after he catches the football. But, he even had a drop yesterday, and that's not the first time he's had a drop. But who hasn't had a ton of drops this season? Noah Brown. And yeah, he had some in the Bears game, and that was probably the one game that Noah Brown didn't. But Noah Brown has been incredible this season for us. He's turned into a safety blanket of sorts for Jaden Daniels. And he made big plays yesterday, big catches. Obviously, he didn't make the one up the sideline on that final possession. Would love to have that one back. Wasn't the best ball from Jaden, but it was definitely a catchable one that he needed to catch, and he didn't. But he also had a great catch on the sideline that was negated due to a holding penalty by Tyler Biadasz. He had another great sideline grab. He had a great catch on a slant that Jaden threw behind him and high, and he had to catch it, and it had hot sauce to go on it. He's been spectacular, and he's drawn PI penalties down the field all season long. He's been the one guy that's consistently done that. And so love what he brings to the table. He drew another one yesterday, another PI down the field. So his impact has been immeasurable, and he's another guy that I just think Chef P pressed the right button, and he's been phenomenal for us. And I told Derek B when he said we've maxed out on Noah Brown, we've gotten way more out of Noah Brown than I think any of us expected. We knew he could come in here and help, but he's been a clear, definitive number 2 receiver. Like, the next step down to the next guy is so far that you're like, hey, there's this massive drop-off when he's not out there. What I feel like is Noah Brown's been great. He's fine. And this is the way I look at Noah Brown. I want him back moving forward. He's our Jawan Jennings. If you look at this roster and you compare it to the 49ers, because that's what Adam Peters is doing. He's assembling a roster that looks like the 49ers because that's what he knows and that's what was successful for him. So he's assembling a roster that looks a lot like the 49ers. For instance, Ben Sinnott isn't George Kittle. We have to go draft a George Kittle. Ben Sinnott is their Kyle Juszczyk, right? So Ben Sinnott for us is the 49ers Kyle Juszczyk. To me, Noah Brown is the 49ers Jawan Jennings, right? Big physical receiver, does the dirty work, catch the ball in traffic, make tough catches, but he's a third option, right? Jawan Jennings is a third option in San Francisco. That's what Noah Brown is supposed to be here. But we don't have a number 2 right now. So he's got to be the de facto 2, and he's doing a hell of a job posing as a 2, but we need a 2, and we'll address that next year, right? We'll address that next year. Can't fix everything, at one time. I'm really happy at where we're at. I told Derek B, we don't need more from Noah Brown. He's given us plenty. If he just keeps giving us what he's been giving us, we'll be fine. We need the others to step up. We need more from Luke McCaffrey. And I'm not telling you that Luke's done anything wrong. Luke had a drop yesterday, right? But I'm not telling you Luke's done anything wrong. Jaden needs to go to him more. Cliff needs to draw up plays that are for Luke McCaffrey, right? We need more from OZ, right? We need more from Diami. He had a drop yesterday. We have other guys that we can lean on. We don't need more from Noah Brown. We need more from the other guys. They got to step up and start to carry their own weight, right? But I just wanted to give Noah Brown some love. He's been fantastic. And you know what I also want to do? I want to give a love. I don't love individually our tackles. I don't. We could use a full-blown makeover at the tackle position. However, they did a commendable job yesterday. None of these guys are, except for Trent Scott, none of these guys are 100% healthy. Brandon Coleman's not 100% healthy. He's on the injury report today. Andrew Wiley obviously didn't play in this game. Cornelius Lucas is out. And so we put 2 backup tackles essentially, and Coleman, I guess you could, consider a starter at this point. But making his second career start against one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Look, it wasn't always pretty, and there were times where there was immediate pressure off the left side with Coleman, and Alex Highsmith was just giving them work. But and it was a collective effort. Guys were chipping, guys were doubling, you name it. But got to give them credit. They stood tall, and they did the best that they could against a big-time pass rush. And they came after Jaden. They sent pressure, man. They were aggressive. They blitzed. And early on, we weren't ready for it. But we adjusted. We got better as the game went on. And Jaden had time. He had time to do what he needed to do in this game. And unfortunately, enough plays weren't made. But I wanted to give a quick shout-out to the offensive line. Biotis was dealing with an injury. We're not the healthiest group. We know Allegretti's still dealing with an ankle. I told you, this little 10-day period, this pseudo-bye that we're going to get after this Eagles game can't come fast enough. If we can somehow manage to win this game, and I like our chances going up to Philly on Thursday night, if we could pull that game out, that 10-day rest is going to be magnificent. Top the division, 10 days of rest before the Cowboys game. A lot of guys can get the treatment they need, get the rest, more importantly, that they need. And then I think we're going to be damn near at full strength going into that Week 12 game against Dallas. You will get Marshawn Lattimore back for that game. You will get Cornelius Lucas back in a reserve role. I think they're going to just allow Brandon Coleman to move, go forward as the starter from here on out. But it's good to know that we'll have Cole Luke back ready to rock, then. I think you'll have Austin Seibert back by then. I think, depending on what happens with B-Rob, I expect B-Rob to be in the game on Thursday, to be honest with you. But if he doesn't play Thursday, he'll definitely be ready on, Week 12 for the Dallas Cowboys. So among other players that are, dealing and nursing injuries, I think we'll be at damn near full strength heading into that Cowboys game, finish those guys off, get the Titans, smoke them, head into the bye at, 10-3, come out of that bye, and you'll be even healthier. And I think you'll have 100% Jaden Daniels by then, assuming that there are no setbacks in these, final 3 games before the bye. And then we can get back to playing the kind of football with him as a runner and that threat being, real, because we haven't seen it. And I know they're being cautious with him, as they should. And I think you can start to take some of those precautionary measures off, and we can go back to him being a threat in the run game and really diversify this offense like we saw early in the season. So can't wait to get to that point, but we got to get through this Eagles game first. But before we do that, we got to take a look at this Week 10 matchup versus the Steelers. And I want to talk to you about the keys to victory. Last week, we had a 5, and I told you, normally you're not going to get it done with a 5. That is a bit of foreshadowing for today's scoring, but put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Let's get to the offensive keys to the game really quickly. Bully the bullies and neutralize the D-line / edge rushers. Well, we pretty much did that. The Steelers, they didn't really hurt us with their edge rushers per se in this game. The big pressure really came from up the middle. Yeah, I think Cam Hayward was probably more of a problem after the Biotis injury than anything else. But we didn't win both sides of the line of scrimmage, which is what bully the bullies meant, right? They rushed for 140 yards. They held us to 70 yards rushing. We sacked their quarterback 3 times. They sacked our quarterback 3 times. And so it was kind of a stalemate, which is why I gave us a half point there. I didn't think they ran the ball down our throats. We really kept Najee Harris in check, but Jalen Warren hurt us. And he hurt us bad. And if not for the fumble, he could have been huge in this game. But all in all, I thought it was a half point there. We didn't bully them. They didn't bully us. Kind of was a stalemate, so to speak. Protect Jaden in the Duke. I give us a full check here. Jaden was sacked 3 times. One of them I put on Jaden. Like, run away from that defender, not towards him. And, the other 2, they blitzed. And Jaden tried to get away and he couldn't. And you got to give them credit too, right? They get paid as well, and they're a damn good defense. And they were sending pressure, man. They came after Jaden, right? But he didn't turn it over. And I always harp back to that. I watch all of these quarterbacks that we call elite in this league, and guys like Jared Goff, who had been playing at this ridiculously high level, who throws 5 interceptions in one game. Not our guy. I watched Josh Allen, turn it over 2 or 3 times against Indy yesterday. Now, they won the game, but it's also Indianapolis. You can get away with that against the Colts. Can't do that shit against the Chiefs. Can't do that shit against, the Ravens and these high-level opponents. But not our guy. Our guy protects the rock. So we protected the Duke, and obviously OZ had the fumble, but that's not an offensive issue. That's a special teams issue. That's more on the defensive side if we're going to link it to one group or the other. But they did their job protecting the football, and Jaden was protected as well for the most part in this game. So full point there. The next key offensively was score points and be red zone efficient. I said we had, at a bare minimum, we needed at least 3 touchdowns in this game. What did we score? 3 touchdowns. I had us scoring 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals. 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals would have won us the game. I had us scoring 30 points against this Steelers defense. I knew we could score 30. And all we needed was 1 more field goal, and we were dangerously close about 3 times to getting in the field goal range before self-destructing on offense. So they hit it right on the head. I knew we were going to score right around 30. 30 was going to get the job done. And we didn't get to 30, though. That was the problem. But we were efficient in the red zone. We were 3 of 3 for the first time at home this season. We did not have an open red zone trip. We scored touchdowns on all 3 of our red zone possessions. So that felt good. Hopefully that's a trend that continues with this team. And hopefully we get more trips to the red zone. Like, I'd rather go back to the days of the Giants game where we went to the red zone 6 times, or the days of the Browns game where we went 5, or the Panthers game where we went 6 times, right? I'd rather go back to those days than only going 3 times. And 3 touchdowns is great, but I'd rather go, 6 times and score, 3 touchdowns, but those other 3 are also points. So that's 30 points. If you go in the red zone 6 times, score 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, that's 30 points. Not to mention if you score outside of the red zone. So I'll take more trips than less trips, but I like the efficiency. Full point there. And then last offensive key, make them pay with explosives. I didn't give us any points here, and here's why. There were so many explosive play opportunities left on the field. Terry by himself had 2 explosives. The one down the sideline, the catch and run on the slant for about 44 or 55 or something like that. And then Luke had one for 23 in the game. And that was the extent of the explosive plays. Our biggest run of the game was 10 yards by Austin Eckler. So we didn't have the explosive plays that we should have had in this game. The Steelers held us to our lowest offensive yardage output of the season. We had less than 270 yards of total offense in this game. A very disappointing game because of the drops and the missed opportunities and the missed throws. We left a lot of yards on the field. We left a lot of meat on the bone. And there were a lot of explosive plays. That Luke McCaffrey play, I don't know how far it goes, but boy, that had a chance to be a big one. Again, that's the biggest play. When you look back on this game, that miss to Luke is the biggest play in the game. Because the Steelers, I think if we catch that one, we run with it, we're either coming away with a touchdown on that possession and the game's over, we're coming away with a field goal and the game's over, or we score and the Steelers get it back, but they're down 2 scores, right? Or they don't get it back at all, and we were able to, depending on how far he gets, and we get a few first downs, they call their timeouts, and then the game's over, right? Like, that's how big of an impact that play could have had, and we just didn't hit it, right? So we didn't make them pay. They blitzed a ton, and when teams blitz, that means there are opportunities, and there were opportunities, and we didn't hit them. Missed to OZ on an over route, a miss to McCaffrey on the over route, drops by Ertz and the holding penalty negating. Like, there were opportunities there for big plays. And Jaden's best throw of the day, I talked about this yesterday. Jaden's best throw of the day didn't count because of a holding penalty on Tyler Biadasz. Like, we needed to make them pay when they wanted to get aggressive, and we didn't make them pay enough. Defensive keys. Limit the run game. It gave us a half point. Even though they ran for 140 yards, it didn't feel like it. Felt like we did a good enough job of limiting them on the ground. Never really felt like they were totally crushing us on the ground. There were times where it felt like we were getting gashed. Felt like we got tired. And towards the end of that fourth quarter, felt like we kind of got tired and worn down a little bit. But thank goodness for the forced turnover by Quan Martin and the recovery by Jeremy Chin. So I gave us a half point there. Win the early downs consistently. The Steelers had 16 third downs in this game. They converted on 7 of them, so less than 50%. Still a lot higher of a percentage than I would like them to be at. We were at 5 of 14, which is not good. That's less than 30%. So or right around it. That's not what we stand for. That's not who we want to be from a third down conversion standpoint. So that's pretty disappointing. That is a shade over, closer to 40%. It's like 30, probably 37, 38%. 5 of 15 would have been 33%. So somewhere in that 37, 38 probably percent neighborhood. And we need to be better. The Steelers were 7 of 16, but the 16 third downs represents the success we had on first and second downs. If you're having success on first and second downs, you're not having as many third downs that you have to convert. There were numerous second down, in 19, second and 20s that we allowed the Steelers to convert. We get to Russell Wilson, they try something, we blow it up, and it'd be 2nd and 14, 2nd and 16, 2nd and 19. There's a 2nd and 20, and he throws a 34-yard, pass. They throw a slant, catch it, run 34 yards on 2nd and 20. Like, we had success on early downs. The problem was, even after success, it felt like a number of, breakdowns right there immediately thereafter, right? So I thought we did win the early downs consistently in this game. So I gave us a point for that. Keep Russ bottled up and ball his life. I started to give us a half point, but we really did bottle up Russ. He didn't have a great performance throwing the football. He really didn't get outside the pocket on us too often. And then we forced 2 turnovers. So when you put all of that together, it deserves a full point, not a half. And then, last but not least, bend but don't break and win or play even on special teams. You knew that special teams was going to be a factor because the Steelers treat special teams the same way that we do. It's not just this phase of the game that you kind of throw in as an afterthought. They treat special teams just like they treat offense and defense, just like we do, as a major part of the game. You're going to return these kicks. We're going to make you earn it on every single special team snap. And they did that. They brought the fight to us, and we responded. We had the muff punt. They had the fake field goal that didn't work. So we both kind of cancel each other out there with mistakes on special teams. But when it's all said and done, Percy Butler had a great tackle on special teams that I thought really energized us. But when it's all said and done, the Steelers went 3 or 4 in the red zone. I still can't find the one missed possession in the red zone. I don't know how they got to 3 or 4 in the red zone because they scored 28 points in the game. I guess they went for it on a 4th down. I mean, no, they didn't. The one 4th down that they technically went for that they didn't get was the fake punt. And that's the one that they didn't convert. I can't recall how they went in the red zone and didn't score because they scored 4 touchdowns. One of them was outside the red zone on the touchdown against Juice on the 3rd and 9. And then the other 3 were all in the red zone. Oh, the fumble. That's what it was. The fumble. They were 3 or 4 in the red zone because of the fumble. So I want to give us credit for that. I can't. I mean, that's a big play, and they deserve credit for that. But we didn't win special teams. I think you could argue we broke even there, and I didn't think we held up well enough in the red zone. The forced fumble is great. I almost want to give them credit for that, but they still went 3 or 4 in the red zone. Still went 3 or 4. So I gave us no points there. Then you totaled up the 2.5 on offense and the 2.5 on defense. It's a grand total of 5, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning. And generally, 5 isn't good enough to win. 5 isn't good enough to win. And so we had opportunities to make some more plays in this game that would have boosted this score up a bit and put you in a much more comfortable spot. But 5 generally doesn't get it done. We got lucky last week. 5 did get it done. We didn't get it done this week with 5. I don't think hovering around 5 is a good idea. Got to be better than that. Let's go in other news. We heard from DQ today. I will talk about what he had to say, but we got a lot to discuss. This is a condensed week, as you guys know. So let's get into the injury report for both teams heading into Week 11 Thursday Night Football contest. This is a glorified walkthrough prediction of what would have happened had practice taken place. Neither team actually practiced today, so take these injuries with a grain of salt, and then we'll take a look at the snap counts for week number 10 as well. So let's take a look at the injury report for Thursday Night Football. Nick Bellore, one of our core special teamers, has a knee injury. My guess is he won't play on Thursday. That's going to be a loss for us there. Brandon Coleman, and remember, Bellore was dealing with the knee injury, going into this week's game. I don't think he played this week either. So that's a guy we would love to get back here shortly on specials. Brandon Coleman, shoulder, limited. Marshawn Lattimore, hamstring, DNP. Austin Seibert, right hip, DNP. Tyler Biadasz, ribs, thumb, foot. So he's got a lot going on. This is why this bye week is so big. Limited. Klee, knee, limited. Cornelius Lucas, ankle, limited. Brian Robinson Jr., hamstring, limited. Andrew Wiley, shoulder, limited. Dante Fowler Jr., groin. Noah Igbenogany, thumb. Jordan McGee, elbow, all full. So again, this is essentially them guessing as to what it would have been had practice actually taken place today. The only thing that kind of stands out here is that Cornelius Lucas is limited. He's been out ever since he had the ankle injury. My guess is when real practice starts, he'll be out. I don't think he's playing in this game. And so my guess is he Austin Seibert and Marshawn Lattimore will all be out, and Nick Bellore will all be out of this Eagles game. And then we'll get everybody back, assuming, everything else stays status quo and everybody else stays relatively healthy. I think you'll get everybody back by week 12 for Dallas's contest with that 10-day layoff. That's going to be huge for this team. Boy, we could use the break. My goodness. Eagles really quickly. This is their injury report. Again, same thing for them. Glorified walkthrough. This is what it would have looked like if practice would have taken place today. N'Kobe Dean, groin. Dallas Goedert, ankle. Darius Slay, ankle. Devontae Smith, hamstring, all DMPs. Bryce Huff and Jordan Mailata, who has been activated from his 21-day window has been activated from IR with that hamstring. Still no word on whether he'll play this week or not. We're both full participants if practice were to take place today. Take all of this with a grain of salt because all four of those guys, N'Kobe Dean, Dallas Goedert, Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, I think are playing in the game. I don't think any of those injuries are serious enough to keep them out of the game on Thursday. I think that's just, hey, if there was practice today, none of those guys would have practiced. So, again, take it for what it's worth. So now let's get to the snap counts from yesterday's game. 64 snaps on offense, as you can see. Coleman, Allegretti, Cosme, Scott, and Jaden Daniels all played all 64 of the snaps. Obviously, Biotish missed 5 snaps when he went out with the ankle injury, but returned very quickly. It was a warrior type of performance for him. We knew he wasn't 100%. We could see that he was laboring a bit. He got beat. He hadn't really been beat all season long. Got beat a couple of times, had the holding, had the sack he gave up. So he went out there and gutted it out, man. I love this team. I love these guys. Nick Allegretti's been battling an ankle since Arizona, and he's been gutting it out. You know that Andrew Wiley wanted to go. He tried to go, and they shut him down, which was the right thing to do because we need him for Thursday night. And I think they were holding him back for that. As usual, Terry McLaurin leads all of the skill players in amount of snaps played, but he was also tied with Noah Brown at 57 for 89%. Ertz at 49 snaps, Eckler at 45, Luke McCaffrey. So you see a stark drop-off after Eckler's 45. McCaffrey, 26. John Bates, 23. Jeremy McNichols, 19. 16 for Olamide Zaccheaus. Ben Sinnott, 13. Diami, 10. And Chris Rodriguez and Michael Dieter both had 5 snaps in the game. So nothing really stands out there. Defensively, Jeremy Chin and Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu all played all 78. That's a lot. That's a big discrepancy between defensive snaps and offensive snaps. I told you this defense wore down in the second half. You could tell. The Steelers started to have success on the ground, running the football. We started to wear down. 78 snaps is a lot of snaps in an NFL game, and to our 64 on offense. We just didn't sustain offense, especially in the second half, well enough. Early on, we weren't good offensively. Late, we weren't good offensively. And that's where we got beat. In the middle of this game, we were outstanding. But we weren't good early. We weren't good late, and that's what got us beat. Quan Martin, 77 snaps, 99%. Benjamin St. Juste, 74, 95%. I wonder, it's hard for me to envision them going from him playing 74 snaps, which is 95%, to them sitting him completely down. I know you don't want to hear that, but I'm telling you, right now, all signs point to them keeping him out there, moving Mike Sainristil inside, and kicking Noah Igbenogany off the field. That's what signs point to right now. I hope I'm wrong about that. But Juice played 74 snaps. Like, they're not trying to wean him off the field, is what I'm telling you. He's a big part of what they're doing right now. Now, that could change, right? That could change. Mike Sainristil played 60 snaps, 77%. Deron Payne led all defensive linemen in snaps played with 55 snaps, 71%. Noah Igbenogany played 51 snaps, 65%. And mind you, Noah plays in the slot. So if there aren't 3 receivers on the field, Noah Igbenogany is not on the field. So I want you to also take that into consideration as well. Same with Benjamin St. Juste snaps count, but I digress. Dorrance Armstrong played 47 snaps. Johnny Newton played 42. Dante Fowler Jr. played 39. Fedarian Mathis played 34. Percy Butler played 33. Sheldon Day, I thought, played really well in this game. 31 snaps for him. Clee played 28. Michael Walker played 19. Jalen Holmes, 17. And F.A. Obata played 15 snaps. Continuing to be noticeably absent is Jordan McGee. Don't look for Jordan McGee to, get on the field. They don't have time to get him up to speed on where they are defensively. They can't play catch up at this point in the season. Maybe after the bye, they've had some time to get him up to speed then, where, everybody else is chilling. The coaching staff is, doing the self-scout and kind of figuring out how they want to move forward. And maybe during that time, they can get him up to speed and get him more comfortable with getting reps. But right now, they just don't have the time to get him up to speed. So you're not going to see him in the mix. So that is the snap counts from week number 10 against the Steelers. And so we heard from DQ day after presser after the 28-27 loss versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. He talked about, the disappointment of the loss, talked about the growth of this team, though, and the brotherhood that's been created and how they've got each other's back and how he loves how they play for one another and how, he knows this team is going to bounce back. And here's one of the things that I feel really good about right now with this team. I'm getting the same vibes that I got after the Ravens loss, right? It's no one's hanging their head, no one's sulking. Everyone understands that, we had opportunities to win this game and we didn't get it done. And now it's on to the next one. And we know we got to bring it against Philly. And this one is big and we got to have it. And I think listening to, and I heard from a slew of players, John Bates, Noah Igbenogany, Bobby Wagner. We heard from Benjamin St. Juste. I know you probably don't care about that, but I do. We heard from Terry McLaurin. We heard a lot of people talk about what Sam Cosmi had to say. And, to a man, they talked, Jeremy Chin spoke, and we obviously heard from the quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and head coach Dan Quinn. And they all, to a man, said that, we got to, hone in on the smaller, granular details, but, this shit stings, and it should sting. Remember this feeling, but also understand we can't let one turn into two. We got a quick turnaround, and we got to have this one. It's in the division. It's for first place. Let's go there and make some noise. Let's walk in their trap and take their trap, right? Take over their trap. So that's the vibe that I got from these fellas. And every time we've lost this season, we've bounced back. After we lost to Tampa in week 1, we won 4 in a row. After we lost to the Ravens, we won 3 in a row. I don't see why we can't do it again. I don't see why we can't bounce back, win these 3 games before the bye, come off the bye, and get frisky with New Orleans, and then Philly again, and then Atlanta, and then Dallas again. I don't see why we can't, after this loss, win 7 straight. But you can't get to 7 without 1. We wanted the sweep of Pennsylvania. We wanted to take over the state of Pennsylvania. Well, we were unsuccessful in the first leg of that, but we still got another leg, the most important leg of that, takeover. And if we get this, we'll feel just as good as, we'll feel great about what happened. Because if you would have asked any of us, you can only get one of these Pennsylvania games, you were choosing the Eagles game without question, without hesitation. So we're still in a great place. We still got a chance to get first place. And so everything we want is in front of us. That said, DQ talked about all of that. He talked about the 4th and 9. He did the, he did the coach speak thing. He's not trying to get fined. I wanted to hear him say, I don't want to hear that the league is, we're turning this into the league. That shit doesn't help me. Like, I don't want the league. I don't need the league telling me, oh, yeah, we effed that one up. We know you effed up, and no explanation they could give me is going to make me feel better. They effed that situation up. I just wanted DQ to say, I thought we got the first down. Like, that's all I was looking for from him, but he's not going to say that. Because again, and I don't blame him. I'm not trying to empty my pockets. I'm not trying to stroke the NFL a check. They've created good soldiers. Most guys are going to walk that company line. And, but that was a damn first down. I don't give a shit what anybody says. And at a bare minimum, we should have at least received a respotting of that football and a measurement. We deserve that at a bare minimum, but we didn't get it, obviously. He talked about Jaden being his best at these moments, and he thinks Jaden's going to be, awesome on Thursday because these are the moments that Jaden lives for, and this is what he thrives in. He talked about the brotherhood and guys rallying around Johnny Newton, and this is what they created that brotherhood for moments like this. He talked about, this quick turnaround. He's like, it was never, he's talked about the Steelers and, they brought the blitz a ton. And he said, look, we knew what kind of, program they were running, and we knew that we were going to have to match their intensity. And we felt like we did that. We just left some things out on the field. he talked about, the 2 games in 11 days and how they didn't look at it like that. They just looked at it, hey, Steelers game, and then we'll deal with the Eagles game after that. So now here's the second leg of that. Now they got to, quick turnaround, get ready. He said we've banked a bunch of reps. So we feel good about, this transition from, Sunday to Thursday. We banked a bunch of reps for times like this. So now we got to be able to lean upon those reps that we've banked and understand what we can and can't do. He said, look, I know that personnel over there from being in the division, but he said they got a different coordinator. And so, and they, he said, these are 2 things we got to understand. One, with Jalen Hurts, it's 2-part play. It's the original play, and then it's the extension of the play. And then he said, the other thing is they're going to go for it on 4th down. That's what they do. That's what their program has been. And so we got to prepare for, defending 4 downs. It's not always going to be 3 downs and, we got to stop. If they get it to 4th and short, you know what they're going to try to do. If they get it to 4th and manageable, they might decide to go for it because that's who they've been. And he's going to prepare the team for that as well. So he talked about the 2 deep balls that Russell Wilson completed for touchdowns. The first one, he's like, that's a damn good throw and catch, which it was. The one that was to George Pickens on Noah Igbenogany. I don't think you can ask Noah to do much better than that. It was just a hell of a contortion by, George Pickens to adjust to that ball. Was thrown on the inside. Noah Igbenogany had great position on the outside, which is where that ball is normally thrown. Russ threw it inside, away from the coverage, and Pickens made a hell of an adjustment to catch it. I mean, again, you just got to tip your cap. Sometimes you got to go, shit, that's a good play, right? The other one on Juice, he was like, yeah, nah, we got to stay on top of that. So he essentially admitted, Juice got to play that shit better, period. He's 10 yards off. We put him in that position so you don't give up a deep ball there, and he still gave it up. Now, we got to be better than that. So he said that as well. He talked about Veterans Day and a number of other topics, but that was the meat and potatoes of what he discussed in his presser. And he's like, on the injury front, I'm gonna have more for you, he said, tomorrow, because again, everything is kind of condensed. He went over the schedule. Like he said, today is like what Wednesday would be for them. Tomorrow is going to be what Thursday is, and then Friday is going to be pretty much Wednesday, and then the game is on Thursday. So he's like, that's how the week is kind of going to go. Normally, we hear from him Monday, don't hear from him again till Wednesday. Well, this was Wednesday, so now we're going to hear from him tomorrow again, because tomorrow is going to act as Thursday. Normally we would get the coordinators. We're not getting the coordinators this week. You'll get him and Jaden probably tomorrow, and then Wednesday you might get him one more time. As that Friday, we normally just get DQ. He kind of wraps up the week, tells you who's going to be the captains, who's playing, who's not playing, that sort of thing. So be on the lookout for the condensed week. And not just there, be on the lookout for the condensed week here on the LouieTeeNetwork as well. With the Commanders nightly news program, it's going to be a little bit altered. Schedule is going to be altered. Lots of content coming out of the NFC East Super Friends channel. L.B. and myself will be live on Wednesday night talking Eagles, Commanders. That's going to be lit, and I need y'all to hold the kid down. So you guys need to be in attendance for that Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on the NFC East Super Friends channel. Tuesday, we are going to be live, the NFC East Super Friends, with special guest Law Nation of Dallas Cowboys of Law Nation. Law will be joining us live on Tuesday night. So the original band is back together on Tuesday night, November 12th. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. He's got a lot of explaining to do, right? He's got a lot of explaining to do. So that'll be fun. So obviously a lot of content coming out of the NFC Super Friends channel this week. So hopefully you'll be locked in there. I'll be live here on Wednesday night prior to the game to get you up to speed on everything Commanders related as we head into that Thursday night game. I'll be here Thursday night after the game, and we'll be breaking it all down. I'll be back on Friday after the game. Obviously, we'll talk about that as we head into the weekend, and it'll be a much-needed break. Win, lose, or draw. We need to win bad, but, don't get me wrong, but it'll be a much-needed break for all of us. Like, we haven't had a break. The only Sunday that we haven't played was a Monday night game in week 3, but we've been present every Sunday. Most teams in the league have had their bye already. We still have not, and we won't have it for another 3 weeks, right? So this pseudo bye by playing on Thursday couldn't have come at a better time. We need it, but we got to get through this Thursday night game first. So we'll talk all about that this week, but I look forward to doing that with you guys all week long. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys all week long here on the program, over on the NFC East Super Friends channel, and then some. It's going to be a busy week, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Guys, we're 7-3, and we're playing for first place in November. Doesn't get much better than this, man. Celebrate! Golly, who would have thought? Not me. Like, who would have thought before the season we'd be sitting here at 7-3 with a chance to be in first place? We've been in first place pretty much all season long, right? Sans for the first maybe 2 weeks. I think we've had a share of first place since either week 3 or 4, and we haven't relinquished it until now. But we're going back for it on Thursday. Looking forward to doing that. Going into the belly of the beast and coming out with a dub. It's my favorite place to play. Sans for home, it's my favorite place to play in the division. Looking forward to going to the link and coming out victorious. Something we do so often around these parts on primetime television. Really looking forward to it. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.